October 12, 1918. Ashes and Survival. The Cloquet-Moose Lake fire erupted across northeastern Minnesota, becoming one of the most calamitous wildfires in United States history. The blaze formed from multiple smaller fires ignited in dry conditions, including sparks from railroad lines near Cloquet and Tamarack. In the days preceding October 12, Minnesota had endured unusually dry weather, leaving forests and brush highly combustible. On that afternoon, a cool front swept into the region with strong westerly winds and a sharp drop in humidity. These meteorological shifts transformed scattered flames into a conflagration that advanced with ferocious speed. The fire's progress was rapid. Winds reached velocities exceeding 75 miles per hour and drove the fronts through towns and rural zones alike. Smoke darkened skies to the point that Duluth's streetlights were turned on in daylight hours. In Moose Lake, residents tried to flee along Highway 73. Some vehicles veered off in panic, especially at a sharp curve later dubbed Dead Man's Curve, where many perished. Kettle River experienced a sudden incursion of flame, and the blaze pressed toward Cloquet and adjacent communities. The human toll was immense. Official counts record 453 deaths as a direct consequence of the fire. Thousands more were injured, displaced, or otherwise affected. One estimate states 52,000 people were injured or forced from their homes. 38 towns and villages lay in ruins. The fire consumed roughly 250,000 acres, about 390 square miles of forest, farms, and settlements, and caused property damage assessed at $73 million in 1918 dollars. The economic structure in the Cloquet region depended heavily on lumbering and rail transport. The industry had already left behind extensive logging stumps and debris, fuel for wildfire. The railroad network, which enabled forest exploitation, also provided ignition sources, passing trains or spark-emitting cars igniting dry brush. Because the region lacked sufficient firefighting infrastructure and coordination, response efforts were overwhelmed. The State National Guard was mobilized, and volunteers worked to contain the blaze and rescue survivors. In Duluth and surrounding areas, peripheral fires swept into the suburbs and threatened local neighborhoods. Though Duluth itself escaped total destruction, parts of its periphery were damaged significantly. Refugees from damaged towns flooded into the city. The human suffering and scale of destruction placed the disaster among the worst in Minnesota memory, often cited as the state's greatest natural disaster by casualty count. Recovery unfolded unevenly. Relief agencies, including the Red Cross, set up temporary shelters in schools, churches, armories, and other public buildings. In Cloquet, rebuilding industries such as paper, box manufacturing, and logging gradually resumed. The Northwest Paper Company reopened within days to provide employment. Over time, new homes replaced lost ones. Railroads and local commerce slowly reknit the fabric of towns. In Moose Lake, the former Sioux Line depot survived and later became a site of refuge during the fire, and eventually a museum to memorialize the disaster. The Cloquet-Moose Lake fire holds enduring historical significance. It underscores how anthropogenic land use, such as logging without adequate fuels management, can amplify natural hazards. The disaster catalyzed changes in forestry policy and fire prevention practices across Minnesota. Memorials and local memory preserve the event as an inflection point in regional identity. Survivors and descendants often date before the fire and after the fire. Emphasis on federal aid grew. Some federal legislation was later passed to address compensation claims by victims. As the second deadliest wildfire in U.S. history, after Peshtigo, 1871, it stands as a warning of nature's capacity when fuel, weather, and human systems align tragically. In the century since 1918, researchers and regional planners reference the fire when designing forest management systems and disaster mitigation strategies. The scars remain in landscapes and in collective memory. That October day changed the human and ecological trajectory of northeastern Minnesota forever. For enthusiasts of historical ephemera, visit history-collectors.com to find collectibles that might complement your collection. You can own a piece of history.